What's up, weirdos? 3 months ago, I made a video about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. The video was about how Blake Lively was the most hated person on the internet at that moment. Everyone was talking about how horrible she is, how tone deaf she is, how stupid she is, while at the same time lifting up this guy Justin Baldoni as a champion of women's rights and an incredible person, and comparing the two of them and making him sound like Jesus and her like Satan. And in the video that I made 3 months ago, I talked all about all of the things that everyone's talking about why they hated her. And if you're unfamiliar with the lore and the drama, I would encourage you to go back and watch that video because it aged well, unlike every other commentary YouTuber's videos on the subject. Maybe there are other people who saw through it and raised questions about the things that were sus, but most of the videos that I've seen are fully on the Justin Baldoni king, Blake Lively, go to hell. Cut to, as of the recording of this video, the New York Times published this: "We can bury anyone inside a Hollywood smear machine. Private messages detail an alleged campaign to tarnish Blake Lively after she accused Justin Baldoni of misconduct on the set of It Ends With Us." And there are so many receipts, and the things that he was doing were horrible. There are screenshots and there are texts between the PR crisis team and Justin Baldoni explicitly saying that this is what they were doing. And at the time of filming my video last time, all this stuff wasn't like really publicly available. But I looked at the situation, didn't want to jump on the hate campaign, wanted to be honest about my interpretation and give my actual thoughts and my take on it. And that video has by far the most dislikes of any video that I've ever posted. On an average video for me, we're looking at like 200 dislikes. Like this one has 31,300 likes and 235 dislikes. The Blake Lively video has 4,500 dislikes. And it might have the most comments of any video I've ever posted. And they are all telling me how wrong I am and how dumb I am and how stupid I am. But then he made an interesting move. He hired a crisis PR team. All that anybody had known at the time was that there was a big rift, and then he hires a PR team. You know, it's not an admission of guilt, but I find it interesting that he hires them and then everything really blows up against Blake Lively. But let's get into the evidence and proof so you can see just how insane it is. And in order to do that, I'm gonna do something that apparently no other commentary YouTuber is able to do. Pay $1 to actually read the articles and not just go off a headline. During shooting of the movie, Blake Lively, the co-star of Justin Baldoni, had complained that the men had repeatedly violated physical boundaries and made sexual and other inappropriate comments to her. It's so much worse than that, and we're gonna get into it, but I need to give the context that what we're about to see is from her legal filing, which the New York Times reports her filing includes excerpts from thousands of pages of text messages and emails that she obtained through a subpoena. And she was able to do that because these issues that arose because of Justin Baldoni's terrible behavior was a breach of Blake Lively's contract. The studio Wayfair, by the way, co-owned and co-founded by Justin Baldoni, agreed to provide a full-time intimacy coordinator, bring in an outside producer, and put other safeguards on set. In a side letter to Mrs. Lively's contract, signed by Mr. Heath, the studio also agreed not to retaliate against the actress. Would you say that intentionally enacting a successful smear campaign against somebody is retaliation? Because, by the way, an attorney for Wayfair Studios, he said, "These claims are completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious with an intent to publicly hurt and rehash a narrative in the media." Interesting when we have actual documented evidence that that is exactly what Justin Baldoni did. And I was sus and raising questions and saying there is more to this story clearly, and I got blown up for it. But go ahead. Let me pay another $1 and read another article. This is from the New York Times, and they posted the actual legal filing. So I'll start with this. During a meeting on January 4th, the parties discussed in detail the inappropriate conduct that Blake Lively, her employees, and other cast and crew experienced at the hands of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. After the list below was reviewed and discussed in its entirety, all parties present agreed that the outlined conduct would cease. So they had a meeting. By the way, only after Wayfair had rebuffed Blake Lively's efforts repeatedly. And by the way, at this meeting, Blake Lively also had the agreed upon right to have a representative present. She chose her husband, Ryan Reynolds, given that the meeting was about repeated sexual harassment and other disturbing behavior by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. So these dudes were sexually harassing her, and she showed up to a meeting with her husband, Ryan Reynolds. And I know people want to come on here and say, Ryan Reynolds isn't actually funny. And listen, I did not love Deadpool 3, and I think that his, catalog as an actor is not great. But put into context, he's showing up to a meeting to support his wife. They have this meeting and Ryan Reynolds shows up to protect and stand up for his wife. But we need to really get into this case because at the meeting, the things that they discussed, and I'm gonna read all of them because it's a list of a lot of things, and I was pretty comprehensive around the things with Blake, so I feel like I should be pretty comprehensive around the things with Justin Baldoni. I think with Blake, it was like 8 things, and with Justin, the list goes to 30. So keep that in mind. So these are things that Justin Baldoni and Mr. Heath cannot do anymore. No more showing nude videos or images of women, including producer's wife to Blake Lively and or her employees. Number 2, no more mention of Mr. Baldoni or Mr. Heath's previous pornography addiction or Blake Lively's lack of pornography consumption to Blake Lively or to other crew members. No more discussions to Blake Lively and or her employees about personal experiences with sex, including as it relates to spouses or others. Kind of weird, Justin. No more mention to Blake Lively or her employees of personal times that physical consent was not given in sexual acts as either the abuser or the abused. Okay, so seems like he has issues. No more descriptions of their own genitalia to Blake Lively. Guys, this is why he hired Johnny Depp's fucking PR crisis team that Johnny Depp hired during the Amber Heard thing. A PR crisis team that had fucking parades of Johnny Depp supporters outside the courthouse. And I know me even saying that, I'm already guessing the dislikes on this video are gonna go to 2,000. I'm gonna get a bunch of comments, but consider the fact that potentially what you are remembering from that trial could have been influenced the same way that this was influenced by the PR crisis team against Blake Lively. And maybe now, as everybody on Twitter is taking it back, being like, everybody just wanted to jump on the hate train. Well, it was everybody. And everybody was so confident. So consider if you're so confident about something, and we are now seeing proof that the PR crisis team genuinely, explicitly went out to destroy Blake Lively's career and her image. And we're gonna get into the text. So if you're mad right now, you feel like you're called out, if you commented on the video, it's fine. People didn't, like, you are the victim of this thing, but I was sitting there saying reasonable things. Because at the time, it was not hard to see that something sus was going on, but nobody was fucking talking about it. And it fucking pisses me off. I look back at the other videos that were made about that, millions of views. And it's just like, wow, she really sucks. She is a bitch. And like, yeah, if you want to go hear about those things, go watch my previous video. I talked at length about them and I called her dumb and stupid for multiple moments of things that she did. But look at this. No more descriptions of their own genitalia to Blake Lively. That's sexual harassment. No more jokes or disparaging comments to be made to Blake Lively and or her employees about HR complaints Wayfarer has already received on set, or about missing the HR meeting. So basically saying that Justin Baldoni was missing HR meetings and he was complaining about the HR complaints. No more inquiries by Mr. Baldoni to Blake Lively trainer without her knowledge or consent to disclose her weight. Now let's fucking talk about this, because if you go look back at my video, there are a lot of the top comments that are people saying stuff like, telling someone with back problems who could possibly hurt himself and his co-stars to suck it up is insane. I have back problems. I have back problems. I have back problems. I had a crazy growth spurt when I was growing up and I went from short to 6'2". My middle and lower back are in a lot of pain and I have ways that I go about it in order to keep it safe. So don't act like you don't know me. And the reason I said suck it up is because the context of that story is he was concerned that she was too heavy after giving birth and he needed to know how much she weighed. So he asked a personal trainer how much she weighed so he could know how to train. It's just sneak dissing to make her feel uncomfortable because they are feuding about all of these things where he's being a fucking creep. And then the PR crisis team that he hired, and we'll get there later, they put out a narrative that it's like, why? It's literally not that big of a deal. Well, it's a part of all of these things. It's number 7 in a list of 30 horrible things that Justin Baldoni has done to Blake Lively. And by the way, you do suck it up. I have back problems. I'm not going to ask somebody in a way that could get back to the person that I'm asking about how much they weigh because I'm worried that I won't be able to lift them. I would suck it up. I have back problems. I would suck it up because if that got back to them, as it clearly did, which means that he did not really do it that secretively, otherwise she wouldn't have fucking known about it. That's the other thing. People don't take that into context, and all of the comments. For real, Cooper did not eat with this. Telling someone with back pain to suck it up and not ask about the weight is crazy. Also, it's not even fat shaming. He was just concerned for his back issues. Okay, you can say that, but why do we know that it happened? Maybe because he was saying it in a way that would get back to her, because he wanted to hurt her. Telling a man to suck it up and risk permanent back injuries just because a woman might be a little insecure about her weight is insane. No, it's not. By the way, absolutely nothing wrong with being concerned that you won't be able to lift somebody and asking your personal trainer to help you train. That stays between you and the personal trainer, and then you train, you get stronger, and then you do it. What you don't do is ask the personal trainer and then have the personal trainer go ask Blake Lively how much she weighs because Justin is concerned he won't be able to lift her. I'm sorry. All these comments with thousands of likes. You do suck it up. Sorry, I felt so much vindication when I saw this. Because when the video came out, there was so much backlash to it. I was getting so many DMs being like, why are you even defending her at all? Why are you raising any questions about Justin Baldoni? Because the truth was staring us in front of our fucking faces. Okay, let's get back to the list. God. No more mention by Mr. Baldoni of him speaking to Blake Lively's dead father. What the fuck? Number 11, an intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Blake Lively is on set and scenes with Mr. Baldoni. No more personal physical touching of or sexual comments by Mr. Baldoni or Mr. Heath to be tolerated by Blake Lively and or any of her employees, as well as any female cast or crew without their express consent. By the way, Blake Lively clearly was doing this not just for her, but for the other castmates and her employees and stuff. I mean, come on. And the next one literally says no more improvising of kissing. All intimate touch must be choreographed in advance with Blake Lively and an intimacy coordinator. No biting or sucking of lip without Blake Lively consent. And all intimate on-camera touch conversations must be in character, not spoken from Mr. Baldoni to Blake Lively personally. Why do you think she has to include things like this? think. And by the way, anybody who thought I was wrong in the other one and was upset with me, it's fine. It's fine. It's actually fine. But the people who are commenting stuff calling me stupid, I just want to say, how the fuck do you feel right now? Like piling on so much to Blake Lively when this is what she went through. And then the person who put her through all of this going on an explicit PR smear campaign against her to the point that if I even suggest potentially that all of this hate is coordinated as an effort by Mr. Baldoni to protect himself from his behavior. Even suggesting that, for that to get me hate, like that tells you how insane the hate train on Blake Lively was at that time. Meanwhile, this is who was enacting it, and this is who put her through all these things. All actors participating with Blake Lively in intimate scenes involved her being in any state of nudity or simulated nudity must be classified as active working actors, not friends of the director or producers, and must be pre-approved by Blake Lively. Meaning what? Bro was bringing his friends on set because Blake Lively was naked. Dog. No more filming of any Blake Lively nudity without a fully executed SAG-compliant nudity rider in place. Any such footage already shot without this rider in place and in direct violation of SAG requirements may not be used without Blake Lively and her legal representative's prior written consent. So were they shooting footage without a SAG-compliant nudity rider and it was just like Blake Lively naked, and you wonder why she was upset and distancing herself from him? There are multiple, like many points that go into this whole thing of like the intimate scenes, like really putting in place a lot of guidelines because clearly boundaries had been crossed. But like this one, number 20, no more entering, attempting to enter, interrupting, pressuring, or asking Blake Lively to enter her trailer or the makeup trailer by Mr. Heath or Mr. Baldoni while she is nude for any reason. This guy's a fucking creep. He is a weird creep. No more pressing by Mr. Baldoni to sage any of Blake Lively's employees. So he was literally there going, hey, naked, hey, get naked, hey, get, oh, come here, naked, okay, let me talk about my penis, hey, let me sage you. What about number 27? No more adding of sex scenes, oral sex, or on-camera climaxing by Blake Lively outside of the scope of the script Blake Lively approved when signing on to the project. No more asking or pressuring Blake Lively to cross physical picket lines. That would mean asking her to basically forego the strike. So I guess allegedly they were pressuring her to do that, which would have absolutely added on to the amount of hate that she would have gotten. Now, by the way, one of the things that was causing a lot of drama ahead of this was Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds having an alternate cut of the movie from the Justin Baldoni one, and like Blake Lively being like, oh yeah, Ryan helped like, you know, write this and include this. And people hated that because they were like, oh, they're just trying to take over the movie. After reading all of this, now I'm wondering, was the cut that Justin Baldoni had including some of the footage that would have not been allowed based on these guidelines? You know, like nudity without Blake Lively's consent? Things to think about. There's a lot to this story that we need to think about. Now let's go into the screenshots. Now, if you've seen the other video or if you remember it at all, it's really important to keep in context. All of the cast had separated themselves from Justin Baldoni. Like this comment on my YouTube video points out, you point out that all of the cast is on Blake's side and how that's such a powerful statement, but left out the fact that all of the crew is on Justin's side, which to me seems even more important. Well, the crew is hired by Wayfarer Studios, which is co-owned and co-founded by Justin Baldoni. I hope that answers your question. And by the way, just 2 more comments because I'm feeling petty that people were commenting this type of stuff when I was saying something that was completely reasonable. Dude, this was an awful take. I don't think you are understanding women can be the villain. You are not looking into how the crew stand with Justin. Okay, how do you feel right now? Because this stuff was not hard to see back then. And I was saying it in the video. And now I'm vindicated. My take aged well. Your comment aged like shit. Or this one, there's a lot of people who commented stuff like, Justin hired the PR team after all the drama started. Now, let's go ahead and look at this is a graph showing the volume of like positive versus negative comments that were made about Blake Lively, or negative mentions about Blake Lively. And I just think it's interesting to look at this because, okay, positive, but then people want to act like, well, before he hired the PR crisis team, well, he hires the PR crisis team and then it goes from positive to negative. So shut the fuck up. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Shut the fuck up. Remember July 31st, my birthday? That's how I remember. July 31st was at the recommendation of their publicist that Mr. Baldoni retained a crisis communication specialist named Melissa Nathan. Now, if we go back down, so he hired her like right about here, not to call out anybody specifically, but you'll see that that's actually after, and it's been not positive at all since then, except for right here. When was this? Just after August 30th. What happened just after August 30th? August 31st, I posted my video. Okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. Surely there are other people. Is that a coincidence? Is that a coincidence? In the lawsuit, they said, leading up to and in connection with the release of the film during the summer of 2024, Miss Lively and fellow cast members promoted the film in accordance with the marketing plan created and delivered by the film's distributor, Sony. Miss Lively and other cast members were under a contractual obligation to render promotional services in accordance with the marketing plan. The marketing plan directed the cast to focus more on Lily's strength. Lily is the character that Blake Lively played. Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about domestic violence, and to avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. One of the biggest things that Blake Lively got hate for was her talking about this not as a dark and sad story about domestic violence, but as a story of hope. Because that's how she did it. She talked about it like that. She talked about it as a story of resilience and of hope and of strength and overcoming. That's how she talked about it. That's why she would be like, bring your florals. People destroyed her for saying, bring your florals. And I think it's tone deaf. I think it's stupid. But she's contractually obligated to. The whole marketing of the whole book, the whole story is that she is represented by flowers and flowers are the motif. And it's like, okay, so you're showing up wearing it. We're supporting Lily. We're supporting survivors. We're celebrating hope. We're celebrating resilience. That got flipped on its head because of how Justin Baldoni conducted himself in his solo interviews.
And I remember finishing the book and I wrote Colleen this like impassioned letter, just pouring my heart out and saying like, this is why I'm a filmmaker. This is why we started Wayfair Studios.
This is why I'm a filmmaker. This is why I started Wayfair Studios. I'm so fucking glad I can say it fully how I mean it, because in the last video, I might have like actually been perma-canceled if I talked about this man the way that I feel. You can see through him! Oh my god, you can see through him! Can you not see through him? Because look, in the days leading up to the film's release, Mr. Baldoni abruptly pivoted away from the film's marketing plan and the types of publicity activities in which he had previously participated. What the public did not know was that Mr. Baldoni and his team did so in an effort to explain why many of the film's cast and crew had unfollowed Mr. Baldoni on social media and were not appearing with him in public. What the public also did not know was that this was the beginning of a multi-tiered plan that Mr. Baldoni and his team described as a social manipulation designed to destroy Miss Lively's reputation. That plan was backed by virtually unlimited resources. Wayfair's co-founder, co-chairman, and leading financier is a multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz, who divulged at the film's New York premiere on August 6, 2024 that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Miss Lively and her family. So what was, at the time, being represented as, oh, it's the battle between a up-and-coming person of color director, Justin Baldoni, versus the evil Hollywood elite Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds. He's just a scrappy guy who's talking about things because he genuinely cares, and she doesn't care at all. Meanwhile, she is getting sexually harassed on a constant basis on that set by him. And all the shit that people are posting being like, oh my god, look how cool he is literally coordinated as part of a plan. Anyways, on July 31st, hey, that was my birthday. Following the recommendation of their publicist, Jennifer Abel, remember that Jennifer Abel is the publicist of Wayfair. Wayfair and Mr. Baldoni retained a crisis communications specialist named Melissa Nathan and her company, the agency group PR LLC. That's who worked with Johnny Depp. The crisis specialist, Miss Nathans, delivered a proposal to Mr. Baldoni, which included a website to discuss full Reddit, full social account takedowns, full social crisis team on hand for anything, engage with audiences in the right way, start threads of theories, discuss. This is the way to be fully protected. She even said, all of this will be most importantly untraceable, except for a fucking subpoena. Wasn't for a fucking subpoena! By the way, this plan went well beyond standard crisis PR. What Miss Nathan proposed included a practice known as Astroturfing, which has been defined as the practice of publishing opinions or comments on the internet, in the media, etc. that appear to come from ordinary members of the public, but actually come from a particular company or political group. Now let's look at some of these messages that were obtained via subpoena. So Jennifer Abel, publicist, sent this to Melissa Nathan, the PR crisis manager. She said, of course you can do that, but I do think he needs to know. I'm going to confidentially send you something he's texting me and Jamie on the side just to arm you before this call. I think you guys need to be tough and show the strength of what you guys can do in these scenarios. He wants to feel like she can be buried. He wants to feel like she can be buried? No, this sounds like a really good guy. We actually shouldn't question any of his actions. She responded by saying, of course, but you know when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do, because that could get us in a lot of trouble. Huh. Well, y'all fucked up because it's fully here in all the screenshots and we're gonna keep going through them. She said, we can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. We will go to this, we will do this, we will do this, we will do this. We can't write, we will destroy her. That's what we're gonna do though. He has to look at it as an information document for us to be armed with. That's all. Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. oh no, that would suck. Cut to the document being in our hands. Oh, here's a fun little text from Justin. He sent a screenshot saying, this is what we would need. By the way, it's a screenshot of a thread that says Hailey Bieber's history of bullying many women and not just Selena Gomez throughout the years. A thread. And then text between Jennifer, publicist, and Melissa, PR crisis. Jennifer says, so are we in the clear now? Did we survive? Melissa says, we survived. All press is so overwhelming. We've confused people. So much mixed messaging. It's actually really funny if you think about it. Is it funny? Is it funny? By the way, I saw right through it, Melissa. You didn't fucking convince me. Roll it back. August 31st. I saw through it all. Jennifer, the publicist, says the narrative online is so freaking good and fans are still sticking up for Justin. And there literally has been no pickup of those 2 articles, which is actually shocking to me. But I see this as a total success, as does Justin. You did such amazing work. The PR crisis girl says, narrative is crazy good. So did you. The majority of socials are so pro Justin. And I don't even agree with half of them. LOL. I don't even agree with half of them, LOL. They're so pro Justin that even I, the PR crisis person, is like, I don't know about that. If only people would have been able to see through this. It was such a stellar plan. You couldn't have possibly at the time known. But then he made an interesting move. He hired a crisis PR team. You know, it's not an admission of guilt, but I find it interesting that he hires them and then everything really blows up against Blake Lively. And I think that that's a fair thing to point out, that I just fucking, when I watch other commentary people talking about this, it feels like this is just mentioned in passing. I have like my own integrity and my own opinions to like, I have to stand behind this. And I have to be honest with you, like I find it sus. I do. And by the way, I do think every commentary channel who made a video just shitting on Blake Lively and saying Mr. Baldoni is senpai and he's queen and not saying anything was sus at all. King, I mean, my bad. But I think the people who are making videos like that should come out and say sorry, because y'all, are you a commentary channel or are you a drama channel or are you a fucking Twitter tea channel? You have to have integrity. And I don't believe that you could actually research this situation and come out with a video not being at least a little bit sus of Justin. And if you are a little bit sus of Justin and you don't say it, it's because you're scared that people are gonna hate you. And that's just as bad. If you're watching a commentary video that somebody's commentary on a topic, I would pray to God that they research that shit. And I don't know how you can research this video and not have fucking seen something like this coming. I mean, I didn't know it would be this bad, but I knew there was something going on. Like, look at the messages. This is from the PR crisis team to his publicist. He doesn't realize how lucky he is right now. We need to press on him just how fucking lucky. 30 seconds later, she messaged this. The whispering in the ear, the sexual connotations, like Jesus fucking Christ, other members feeling uncomfortable watching it. I mean, there's just so much. Talking about him doing that. She continues, Jen, this went so well, I'm fucking dying. I have to call you later in a bit and tell you how this went. It was genius. She then sends a screenshot of this. Is Blake Lively set to be canceled? String of hard to watch videos that have surfaced following tone deaf Q&A to promote It Ends With Us could tarnish 36-year-old star's golden Hollywood image for good. She sent that to the publicist and the publicist said, wow. You really outdid yourself with this piece. Wow, my client is a piece of shit, and you actually did a great job making him look like a good guy and the person who's a victim of this look like a bitch. Wow, really outdid yourself. She says, that's why you hired me, right? I'm the best. By the way, a lot of my comments in that video that are like hate are about the Amber Heard Johnny Depp situation. This is the woman who is representing Johnny Depp. I am begging you, no matter how much you want to say you followed the court case, if me saying that Amber Heard was a victim of the social media hate campaign driven by Johnny Depp's PR crisis team, if you're saying she was not the victim of that, then you are not paying attention. You're like, this is who did it. I am not wrong. Amber Heard is not perfect. Blake Lively is not perfect. The point of this video is not that they are perfect. The point of the video is Justin Baldoni. He did all of this stuff and then continued the abuse and torment by trying to intentionally destroy her career. And then everybody just read a fucking Astroturfed headline that was pushed by this PR crisis team and read a bunch of Twitter threads using moments of Blake Lively being tone deaf and stupid and rude and said, you know what? This girl actually is a piece of shit, and went on the biggest hate campaign ever. And by the way, one of the biggest moments on this whole thing.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
So that clip of that interview was posted by the interviewer years afterwards on her personal YouTube channel. And I talked about this in the video, by the way, go back and rewatch that one. She was tweeting during the Johnny Depp trial incredibly supportive things of Johnny Depp. And at the time of the trial, posting a video that has 173,500 views about Johnny Depp and how he's so sweet. So because I do research. I found that. I come up with that. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Well, now the New York Times is reporting on it. Listen, I'm only saying this because I stood on business back then and I got so much shit for it. But this was something that I found out. I didn't find this on a Twitter screenshot. I went to her channel. I went back and found this. And it is so vindicating to see that that research is reflected in the fucking New York Times. Obviously, it's not like they watched my video and they were like, oh, let's write in the New York Times. But it just goes to show I did some investigation to the point that I can. I don't have fucking subpoenas, but I do have a penis.
Come on.
But yeah, now that the New York Times says it, is a little bit sus that she posts stuff in support of the people that this PR crisis team is currently represented by. Huh, that's interesting. And again, I said it in the last video, that was bratty of Blake Lively to say in the interview, congrats on your bump. But also, I think by like the 4th grade, you kind of know not to ever comment on a pregnant woman's body at all. So she made a social faux pas, and then Blake Lively was bratty in response to it. And therefore, her career should be completely over? Because, well, it's not just that. In addition to that, she also was talking about the story as a, hope and resilience and stuff when Justin was actually taking it seriously. By the way, right here, just want to read this part. Mr. Baldoni ignored well-established industry protocols in filming intimate scenes and exploited the lack of controls on set to behave inappropriately. Such safeguards ignored by Wayfarer include providing performers with appropriate notice of nudity and simulated sex and ensuring that consent is given free of pressure or coercion. Signed, nudity writers are in place. Nudity writers?
Come on.
Okay, let's be serious. Nudity writers are in place spelling out the parameters of nudity or simulated sex scenes, blah, blah, blah. And it's saying that those safeguards were ignored by Wayfarer Studios, co-owned, co-founded by Justin Baldoni, who directed this film and was the lead actor in it. Without these protections in place, Mr. Baldoni improvised physical intimacy that has not been rehearsed, choreographed, or discussed with Miss Lively with no intimacy coordinator involved. For instance, Mr. Baldoni discreetly bit and sucked on Miss Lively's lower lip during a scene in which he improvised numerous kisses on each take. Mr. Baldoni insisted on shooting the full scene over and over again, well beyond what would have been required on an ordinary set and without advance notice or consent. What about this one? On another occasion, Mr. Baldoni and Miss Lively were filming a slow dance scene for a montage in which no sound was recorded. Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in character as Ryle. Instead, he spoke to Miss Lively out of character as himself. At one point, he leaned forward and slowly dragged his lips from her ear down her neck as he said, "It smelled so good." He was caressing Blake Lively with his mouth in a way that had nothing to do with their roles. When Blake Lively later objected to this behavior, Justin Baldoni's response was, "I'm not even attracted to you." On the day of shooting the scene in which Miss Lively's character gives birth, Justin Baldoni and Mr. Heath suddenly pressured Blake Lively to simulate full nudity, despite no mention of nudity for this scene in the script, her contract, or in previous creative discussions. Mr. Baldoni insisted to Miss Lively that women give birth naked, and that his wife had ripped her clothes off during labor. He claimed it was not normal for women to remain in their hospital gowns while giving birth. Blake Lively disagreed, but felt forced into a compromise that she would be naked from the chest down. Dude, so cool. And she felt forced into that compromise. Hey, so cool. All these stories are kind of making sense why all of those things were put into the contract of things not to do. By the way, I don't know if you're aware of this. This is not how movie sets are supposed to run. But look at this. When that birth scene was filmed, the set was chaotic, crowded, and utterly lacking in standard industry protections for filming nude scenes, such as choreographing the scene with an intimacy coordinator, having a signed nudity writer, or simply turning off the monitors to the scene so the scene was not broadcast to all crew on set and their personal phones and iPads. Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni also failed to close the set, allowing non-essential crew to pass through while Miss Lively was mostly nude with her legs spread in wide stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia. Now, you know what? Honestly, Justin Baldoni is so cool. I'm so glad that everybody was supportive of him. Yeah, he's so cool. There's no way anybody could have known that there was something sus about his behavior except the fact that he had the entire cast distance themselves from him and unfollow him on all socials. And then he hired a PR crisis team, and then all the stuff about Blake Lively started coming out. Anyways, among the non-essential persons present that day was Wayfarer co-chairman Mr. Sarowitz, who flew in for one of his few set visits. Blake Lively was not provided with anything to cover herself with between takes until after she had made multiple requests. Blake Lively became even more alarmed when Mr. Baldoni introduced his best friend to play the role of the OBGYN when ordinarily a small role of this nature would be filled by a local actor. Miss Lively felt that the selection of Mr. Baldoni's friend for this intimate role in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude genitalia for a birth scene was invasive. But you know what? When that interviewer was talking about Blake Lively's body and how it's growing while she's pregnant, she was a brat for saying, "Congrats on your bump," and she should have been completely canceled and obliterated from the earth. No. Oh, yeah. No, the level of hate that she got is totally in line with this type of stuff that she was doing. Yeah. On the one hand, it's really vindicating to have a take that was, so hated at the time of me posting it. And again, 90% of people liked it. Most people just watched it and agreed. I get that. Most of y'all watching, like 99% of y'all watching. Well, not 99, 90%. But it's like partly vindicating, but also like really, really, really disheartening to see that people who are good people can be so easily manipulated by somebody, even though you know that you're being manipulated, or you just don't want to believe you're being manipulated because you want to hate somebody. So like, yes, I feel vindicated, but also it's really just like disappointing to see how bad, I don't even know what it is, like how bad people are at, I don't even know, because I don't know. But I don't know, it's more than just like the people who comment on it. It's more like the commentary YouTubers who were making videos about it, and they were so biased just against Blake Lively and had no room for nuance. And it makes me think, do they not even research their videos at all? And it's frustrating because like the types of like YouTubers who make videos about this have a genuinely massive impact on the public opinion of these things. And there is a responsibility that comes with that, especially in a situation that is as fucking serious as this. I don't know. I'm gonna talk about one more as well. I know I said that the last one was like bad, but this one is just Justin Baldoni added a detailed scene to the film in which the underage version of Blake Lively's character, Lily, loses her virginity. In both the book and the script for the film, there was no sex scene. Instead, the details about this moment were left to the audience's imagination. But Justin Baldoni added in considerable details, including both dialogue between young Lily and her boyfriend about the loss of her virginity, as well as a simulated sex scene in which Mr. Baldoni filmed and included in his initial cut of the film a close-up of young Lily's face accompanied by an audible gasp at the moment of penetration. Blake Lively was informed that when this scene was shot, Justin Baldoni called cut, he walked over to the actors and said, "I know I'm not supposed to say this, but that was hot. And did you two practice this before?" There's a lot more. It goes on for a while. Moving on from what happened on set, now we need to talk about the PR crisis situation, because we have to address the thing that everybody allegedly everybody fell for. I don't know how everybody fell for it. I don't know how you couldn't look at the situation with a little bit of fucking nuance, especially if you're gonna make a video about it that you know is gonna get millions of views. But in the lawsuit posted by the New York Times, they say, in advance of the release of the film, nearly all cast members chose to appear in public separately from Justin Baldoni, given his on-set behavior. Justin Baldoni became concerned that the public would discover that something is much bigger under the surface on information and belief, alluding to the complaints lodged by Blake Lively and others. At that point, Justin Baldoni pivoted away from the film's marketing plan to explain his absence from the rest of the cast. He shifted his focus away from a message of female triumph to instead capitalize on female trauma. After the film's premiere, Mr. Baldoni changed his Instagram profile, canceled lighthearted social media posts, and instructed his team to look for survivors' reactions and support, all in an effort to quickly shift his own public narrative to focus solely on survivors and domestic violence organizations. He used victims of sexual violence to make himself look good after he sexually harassed a woman on his set. And he did that in an effort to destroy her career. And we couldn't have known that this was exactly what was happening, but the fact that the public narrative around it was not questioning of him at all, and when one person does, they get an insane amount of hate. It's like, what the fuck? Justin Baldoni text message screenshot to his publicist. "Hey, just landed. What is the TikTok strategy? I'd like you guys to start posting me only talking about domestic violence and clips of why this movie is so important." So all of those videos that people were posting comparing the way Blake Lively talked about it, where it's like, you know what? We're coming here to celebrate female survivors and it's a message of hope and triumph. Wear your florals. That became such a thing of like hate for her when she was following the contract. And he explicitly went outside the contract to position himself as the most incredible male feminist. Ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing. And by the way, people will sometimes say, I'm a wolf in sheep's clothing. Like, I was getting comments like that on the Blake Lively thing of like, why do you have to support her? You don't have to support women all the time. Motherfucker, how many videos have I made about women who suck ass and I call them fucking dumbasses the whole time? Like, what the fuck are we talking about? As if I won't call out a dumbass woman for acting like a dumbass. Dumbass is dumbass. And I was giving as generous of a take as I possibly could for Justin Baldoni. Like, everybody who hated Blake Lively, I was being as generous and charitable to that position as I possibly could in that video. And you'll see it. I think I said I don't like Blake Lively like 80 times in the fucking video. And even then, even raising my suspicions about this whole like PR crisis thing and the second half of the video being about that, people would say things like, well, you can just see like on his socials like how much he cares. Because he's being performative to protect his fucking life after he hired a PR crisis team. How is that hard to understand? It's not now. It's not now. Justin Baldoni also texted his publicist a little bit after and said, also, I need you guys to really be on all the stories I'm tagged in. I think you should let all the people DM me so you can see people's reactions to film and I can be reposting everything. These next 36 hours are crucial and we need to be on it, looking at everything, finding the most emotional and touching content from survivors supporting this film and reposting. Need you to be finding survivors, sharing their stories, and amplifying them on my page and TikTok. So that means he is explicitly, intentionally going out of his way to use domestic violence victims to protect his own image, a sexual harasser. And it fucking worked. It worked for 3 months. I mean, it only worked for 3. I hope you loved those 3 months, Justin.
It's one of the reasons I was afraid to direct this movie, let alone act in it. And I wanted to make sure this film always had a female gaze, and I was never putting myself into it. But
I was never putting myself into it, says director who cast himself as the lead role, who was kissing Blake Lively out of character and improvising kisses, and then hiring his best friend to play the OBGYN, who was a mere inches from Blake Lively's barely covered genitalia. Wow, real interesting. Real interesting. By the way, he owns a podcast called Man Enough, where he talks about toxic masculinity. Are you out of your fucking mind? In Jesus' name, more back pain. More back pain. No, and I can say that because I also suffer from back pain. Yeah, now what? Now what? The publicist Jennifer Abel said to the PR crisis manager Melissa Nathan, I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week of how horrible Blake is to work with, just to get ahead of it. She's putting us through hell. I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week. Plant pieces? This is literal supervillain shit trying to ruin Blake Lively's life. Y'all, by the way, thought that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds weren't gonna come out with the fucking truth. They're rich. I think Ryan Reynolds actually does have the talent and the emotional vulnerability within him to give a good performance. But for definitely the last decade of his career, he's just been focusing on being the big guy. And you know what being the big guy gets? A shit ton of money that is then used to pay lawyers to expose the truth. Did you think this wasn't gonna happen, Justin? If I hire a PR crisis team, then there's no way that the contracts that I signed that I completely went against could ever come back to bite me. What about a fucking subpoena? Ever heard of a subpoena? I know you've heard of a penis. It didn't work that time either, but I feel like there's something there. I'll get it eventually. Anyways, so she was saying, I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plan stories. Melissa Nathan, the PR crisis team, responded, same. Am I already off the record spoke to the... I think it's and I already off the record spoke to the editor of Daily Mail because she's my friend. I already spoke to the editor of Daily Mail because she's my friend. My friend is the editor of Daily Mail. Cut to Daily Mail posting this on August 16th. Is Blake Lively said to be canceled? String of hard to watch videos that have surfaced following Tone Deaf Q&A to promote It Ends With Us could tarnish... Yeah, we read that one earlier. They also continued posting a lot of stuff about it. It is interesting that she's like, yeah, I actually had an off-the-record conversation with the editor at the Daily Mail. She's a close personal friend of mine. And then they post this stuff while being hired to. It's not like there's theories. This is evidence. Oh! If you scroll onto the next page, Melissa says, she's ready when we are. The editor of the Daily Mail is ready when we are. No, it's actually cool that you can use money to buy the news. Oh, wow, baby finds out water is drinkable. I know it's obvious, but seems like it's not obvious based on how nobody believed me when I said it. I'm still fucking salty about that. How am I gonna get so much hate for saying something that was suspicious of Justin and had just general human nuance? How do I get hate for that? It really makes me really disappointed in all the other commentary channels. And by the way, I say commentary channels, the fact that people weren't having any nuance at all or even considering that something was going on behind the scenes really makes me not respect them as a commentary channel. And I kind of in my mind demote them to okay, you are drama/tea. You're not for real about this. You're not real. You're just in it for views and tea. And by the way, I love talking about dramatic ass juicy videos of people who are doing crazy ass things. But I also do a little bit of research and I talk about it from my actual heart because I have integrity. Okay, I'm so, look at this, by the way. This is an employee of the PR crisis team sent this to the publicist of Justin Baldoni and said, you guys will love this. It's a TikTok video, but they continue basically saying that Blake needs to divorce Ryan because he's made her into a meme. He's ruining her biggest movie of the year, forcing her to ostracise Justin, rewriting the script, etc. You guys will love this. If this is your job, If this is what you do, is intentionally destroy the lives of innocent people for sexual harassers, it's not like a criminal defense lawyer where it's like, well, everybody does have a right to a fair defense, like under the law. It's not like that. You are being paid to artificially create the destruction of somebody's life who is the victim of your fucking financier? When I say financier, I just think of fucking Epstein. And you know what? I will say this, to Justin Baldoni's credit. To his credit, he is not Jeffrey Epstein. I will say that. Because, you know, I had nuance in my last video, so I should have some nuance here. He's not Epstein, but he's definitely not Mr. Rogers. She said, it's actually sad because it just shows you how people really want to hate on women. You are the reason that they are hating on women. What the fuck? What the fuck? I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, bruh. Me looking at Melissa Nathan like, bruh, what the heck? What the heck? I'm like, bro, what? It's actually sad because it just shows you, by the way, learn how to fucking type. There's so many times that I've been reading and I've had to grammatically correct her fucking dumbass. It actually is sad because it just shows you how people really want to hate on women. And that's why I'm saying, like, I have mixed feelings on this because it is like very vindicating to have a take that was so hated at the time that I knew was gonna age well. That's why I didn't take it down, because I'm like, okay, everybody's like, what, soft canceling me on this video. It didn't like continue on to like comment sections of other videos really, a little bit. And that's not to say anybody who made any comments or posts or anything about this situation is a terrible person, not to say anything like that, because there are things that Blake Lively did that are pretty bratty and bad. Like, she's not perfect, she's not. Because content creators added so much negativity to this situation while providing no nuance or questioning at all. If you know something and you have integrity, you will share the truth of what you know. And if you get backlash for it, think to yourself, are they right? If the answer is no, they're not right, it's okay to just go, because the truth will come out, you will be vindicated if you are right, and in the future, you won't look stupid with a video with 1 million and something views that is an entire video of just a very poorly aged take. I'm just worried for like the content creator, like YouTuber, want to call themselves commentary channels, because when you have a bunch of people who are sharing stories like this with no integrity, just trying to get the most views and the most money, that's a really depressing thought to have. And I hope that this moment, which is such a public thing, really causes people to change the way that they approach talking about stuff like this online. Man, I've been talking for a long time. This is a long ass video. I'm sorry. I love you. Please subscribe. And this is a message specifically for Chris Evans. If you are not Chris Evans, ignore this message.
You have a beautiful artist spirit within you. When you directed that movie, your debut movie, I watched it and it was beautiful. It was emotionally resonant. It was well paced. You have so much within you. And especially as an actor, I know you have so much to offer. And when you pick projects like Red One and Gray Man, I get that you get to hang out with your friends and you make a bunch of money and you have a blast. But like, you have this artist soul within you that you are not letting flourish to the world. And it's not like if you don't do this, then you are like taking beautiful art that could be from the world. You are not some untalented hack who's just supposed to do big blockbusters. You have so much within you, Chris Evans. And I was devastated to see that you're gonna be returning in Avengers Secret War. I'm sure it's gonna be fun hanging out with your friends, you're gonna get a bunch of money. But if it takes up 6, 7, 8 months of your schedule, dude, you could be doing like 2 indie projects that have just an absolute showcase for you. You honestly deserve it. And I hope that you don't wait for like years and years and years. Tomorrow is not promised, Chris Evans. You have the time now. Deliver. You have the name recognition, the power behind you. You could put so much backing behind a project with genuine artistic spirit and intent. Please pursue this. Please hear this in the spirit in which it's intended.